find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
What have you been up to?
We went to Ashland.
Did you see a play?
We saw 2 plays, actually.
What'd you see?
We saw a play called Lizard Boy.
Lizard Boy?
Yes. And it was very good. And do you remember, like, at the maybe you weren't even living in Seattle at this point, but right when I first moved to Seattle, I did like a backstage internship at Arts West in West Seattle, where there was a production of American Idiot. And it was really cool. It was like a really cool production back when I did that kind of stuff. And I just was like a stage hand backstage and did stuff to help the cast and stuff. But the person who wrote the book, the music, the lyrics for Lizard Boy was someone that was in that play. And then he had cast someone else who was in that play. So I was like watching this show and then I was like, wait, I've seen them before. So it was really cool.
That's awesome. I love to hear that people from like the Seattle theater scene are like out there getting like work it. Like we're talking about the Ashland Shakespeare.
OSF, Oregon
Yes.
Shakespeare Festival. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's going to be there until like October or something. It was really good. It was like a musical. It was like a coming of age story. Like, yeah, it was lovely.
Well, the title alone has me hooked.
Yeah. Well, I picked it for the title alone because I was like, what's this about? I gotta know. We also watched Much Ado About Nothing, which got pushed from an 8 o'clock start time, which already I was like, okay, you really want me to start something at 8 o'clock? Fine, I'll do it. But, and then because it was so hot in Ashland, it got up to like 106, 110 some days.
Ugh.
They were like, we're pushing the start time to 8:30. So it's like, gives it a chance to cool off. My dad is like already exhausted by the time we arrive at the theater. Poor man is falling asleep. So he had to leave at intermission. Chris and I stayed till the end and we got out of there at like 11:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask what time you got out of that, because like depending on the cut, Shakespeare plays are very long, can be 3 hours plus is what I would expect.
Yeah, it was. Did I say? I may have not said. It was Much Ado About Nothing, which I had confused for. What's the one? As You Like It. I thought I was about to see As You Like It, and then it was Much Ado About Nothing, and I was like, I have no fucking clue what's going on. So I felt like a idiot.
Well, I mean, all those comedies kind of bleed together. If there's cross-dressing twins in Italy, you know it's Shakespeare.
Yeah, I think that might have happened at one point.
Oh,
but
yeah.
No. I don't usually like go for Shakespeare. Like, it's not my like cup of tea, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And I was like fully expecting to be bored, and I was not. Like, I was like, we could leave an intermission. Like, it's tacky, but I was like, we could do it. But I was like, no, I want to see how this ends, and like I want to see more of it because it was really good.
That's one thing that I really love about Shakespeare is that like I feel like there's an attitude around it, and I definitely think people use it this way to be like elitist, like to be like, you know, this is Shakespeare and only we can understand it. But the secret to Shakespeare and what I really love about it is if a really good actor and a really good cast and a really good director come together on that shit, you do not even have to speak English to know what the fuck they're doing and saying.
Yeah.
You know, that's the magic of theater in general, but Shakespeare particularly. If you have people who actually know what they're saying,
it's important.
Yeah, it really makes a difference because, like, you know, the jokes land if they know they're telling a joke.
Yeah.
You know, if you know who's pissed at who, like.
So there was a part where they're like 2 or 3 guys are talking about one of their comrades, like the main guy and I can't fucking remember his name, but 3 guys are talking about one of the guys. And the guy that they're talking about is just like, at first he's just like kind of to, you know, stage right or stage left, like listening. And then he suddenly comes out in a giant like bush.
Yes.
And like the bush like moves around on stage. Like it was just really like silly and campy, but it was really funny.
I love that. That's the joy of theater, is a man running around stage in a bush costume.
Yeah. Not George W., like a bush that grows out of the ground.
The foliage, not the man.
Yeah. Yeah.
In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I am Sophie Snake Skeleton Schwartz.
And I am Katelyn Caught on Camera Hart. And yes. And this is a podcast where we talk about bones, bone-related topic, theater if we're feeling nasty, murder and crime and weird history.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
We've had a little bit of a hiatus from recording. It's just been so hot, you know, it's like hard to function, even now.
It is, and podcasting, especially when, like, you know, to peel the curtain back a little bit to keep it in the theater realm. Katelyn and I do not have a studio or anything. We just record this in our respective offices, and one person's office is also their bedroom. So no fans or anything like that can be running because, you know, I edit the podcast as well. The curtain peels back farther. And
it would sound like shit.
It would sound like crap, yeah. And I don't want that for you. You, listener, I want this to be as smooth and relaxing as possible. The ideas may be challenging, but I would like the sound to be relaxing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Rock on, guys. Do you want to go first or shall I?
Do you have a good ender?
Sure.
Then I can kick us off.
Okay. I saw you sent me an email, so I figure you have something prepared for today.
Oh, I do. I thought I'd just kind of wing it and share my thoughts.
Oh my god, I can see sweat like dripping down my neck around my necklace. Sorry.
I know. The necklace sweat is real this time of year. I have one on too, yeah. Oh my god. I do have to tell you something funny. Speaking of like winging it, there's a sketch that the Maple Daddies do, my sketch comedy group, that's actually going to be playing in Portland pretty soon. But when we do this sketch, there's sections of the sketch where I'm supposed to be talking to another member of the team, a wonderful man named Nick, who you can hear on this podcast every once in a while. And the joke of the sketch is what I'm saying to him is supposed to be extremely off-putting.
Okay.
And you catch a little snippet of it. We're going to do this in Portland too.
Hell yeah.
And I have just been telling him various topics that we've covered on the podcast as briefly as possible. And when the other people stop talking and you hear what I'm saying, it's supposed to be something really gross. So, like, I've talked about the man-eating horses, various murders. This topic was the star of last night's rehearsal. But I just love grossing Nick out with things that you and I speak so casually on.
I can't wait for that one. I bought my ticket the other day in case it sells out.
Hell yeah, it's liable to do so.
Mm-hmm.
All right, to the bones. You've waited long enough.
I'm sweating in anticipation.
Well, let's not fucking have that, but we can't control that. So I'm just going to get my sources out of the way so that we can get the fuck into this. So we have one from the Mayo Clinic, a secret source that will be revealed later, hypoallergic.com, two from Wikipedia, one from the collegeofphysicians.org, and one from Alice Obscura.
This is giving medical. This is giving medical oddity. Like, what's going on?
We're going to be talking about a kick-ass anatomist today.
Oh,
you
okay.
guessed it right on the head, Katelyn.
Fantastic.
Was it the Mayo Clinic that gave it away?
And physiciansofmedicine.com or whatever the fuck. Yes.
I saw your ears perk up at that, and I thought I'd given myself away. So, we're going to be talking about a man named Josef Hyrtl.
Okay.
Ring any bells? No?
Like a hurdle in life?
Yeah, he's a German fellow. He was actually born in a Hungarian village, actually, pardon me. And then when he was 3 years old, him and his family moved to Vienna. He was born in 1810, by the way, just to ground you in where we're at.
Okay, cool.
So he studied medicine at the University of Vienna, and he was actually appointed to a very interesting position while he was there, which was the prosector. Now, what do you think a prosector is?
Like, he was elected?
He was appointed.
Appointed.
So he was
okay.
such a good student that they were like, we're going to give you this. And this was in 1833.
Is this like a prefect, like Percy in Harry Potter?
Yes and no. It's a very
Like
honored...
a hall monitor?
It's an honored position, but it is the person who prepares the dissections and demonstrations for medical schools and hospitals. So, like, if they're prepping to dissect a specific part of the body, or if, like, there's certain things that I think need to be done to a body before they can just start hacking it up, even in the 1800s.
Yeah. They got to have all their instruments ready. They probably should be clean. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone was worried about sterility at this point, but, you know.
I think we were on the cusp of that. So a few years after he is appointed, you got me
Sorry,
saying
I threw you off, yeah.
A few years after he's appointed prosector, he ends up getting his doctorate in the history of medicine, and he had an emphasis on anatomical instruction with a clinical orientation. So he's basically like, I want to teach people about the body, what we know about it so far.
That's cool.
Yeah. I also liked this tidbit that he considered like physiological experiments on animals to be unproductive and cruel.
Oh, yeah.
So I was
ahead of his time on that.
Animal rights king.
Yeah, we love an animal rights king.
And he followed his passion of wanting to teach people about the body in 1837 when he was named a professor of anatomy at the University of Prague. And then he went back to Vienna in 1845 to join the faculty of the University of Vienna. So coming back to Vienna, a little bit of a homecoming for him. One thing that he's really known in the medical community for is his book, Handbook of Human Anatomy, that he wrote in 1846, which, as its title would suggest, is a textbook on anatomical studies and functions that actually had no illustrations because Hyrtl had given his students like all these bespoke drawings for every lecture. He was like really into creating these anatomical models and drawings.
Huh.
And people said he was a really good lecturer. His students really liked him.
So the book had no illustrations?
I think so, yeah.
But he liked to do the drawings anyway.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Also, something that made this book really stand out from other anatomical texts of the time is that it didn't just contain technical information about the body. It also had like little historical anecdotes about like different parts of the body and the discoveries of different parts of the body, and like personal anecdotes as well. So he was just like, I remember this one time when I was working on the ear, like...
Sure, yeah. I like that. It's like personalizes it.
Yeah, people really liked that because he had a kind of a unique personality. He was said to be kind of rough around the edges, you know, not really the most sociable guy. He spent a lot of time with the dead.
Well, doctors tend to be a little weird, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Love them.
Love them.
Need them.
But they're a little odd. But he would end up finding massive success with this book. It actually ended up having 22 editions and was translated into most languages.
Damn. So it was
it's a seminal work. Like, it's
universally recognized.
Yeah. And he wasn't done with his writings. In 1847, he published his Handbook of Topographical Anatomy, which was also translated into many languages and was like another like foundational text for anatomy. So by this time, he wasn't just writing books, he was also creating anatomical models and illustrations, like I was telling you. And then he started selling them.
Okay.
So he was like, not just my students should have these sick-ass models and drawings. They should be for everybody, right?
Yeah. If you got it, flaunt it.
Right? And he had a very unique technique for preparing these anatomical specimens. He did what was called like a corrosion preparation. So where he would inject the vessels of like bone cavities with like this hardening agent, and then he would destroy the bone and tissue around it, leaving there the vascular structure.
Very cool. That's really interesting.
Right? And like this was a completely like new technique. In his career, he was never able to discover any parts of the body himself. Like there is, I don't quite understand this, but he also like was interested in the anatomy of animals as well. And he did like a comparative anatomy of the inner ear of like starting with like mice going all the way up to elephants.
Oh,
He like was really interested in ears.
interesting. Okay.
And there is a part of the inner ear that was given his name. It's called the Hyrtl recess.
That's legit.
Right? When it's named after you, it's legit. And all of his anatomical drawings and models were used by some of the biggest anatomists of the time. And even one of his students ended up discovering another like part of the ear, like because of him and his work. So like, you know, we don't have x-rays at this time. So like what he's drawing is the understanding of the human body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. People don't know what they can't see.
Right? So he was one of the people who developed the famous anatomical museum at the University of Vienna. And he was actually made the honorary rector for the 500th anniversary celebration of the university in 1864. So, like, he's getting recognized a bit in his time, which is really nice because sometimes these people just, like, work and work and work. And, like, everyone's like, Johnny, get out of here with your crazy ideas about washing hands.
And then they die and everybody's like, he was right.
He was right. The hands. So he had like a really lovely career in that way, but he ended up getting a more ornery as he got older and a little harder to work with.
All right. I guess a lot of us maybe do that.
Yeah. So he ended up retiring in 1874, and he spent the rest of his life kind of furthering his cause of anatomy. So he was a teacher, yes. That's what he did with his knowledge of anatomy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The man also had hobbies.
Do tell.
So we're going to take a quick diversion for a second. And I'd like you to look at just the first picture in that email.
It looks like a statue of a fight, and there's some snakes wrapped around three guys, maybe?
So this is a statue called Laocoon and His Sons.
Oh, okay.
This is a statue that was thought to be carved. The range is like from between 200 BC to like the 70s AD. This is an old ass statue.
Yeah.
And it was lost to time for a while, but then found in 1506. And this is a very interesting statue because when it was found, pieces of it were missing, and there's been a lot of debate around what the positioning of one of the like middle guy, Laocoon. He's a priest. He's a Trojan priest, and him and his sons are being attacked by sea serpents. That's what's happening here. He's in the middle, and his two sons are on the side, and there's two serpents, and they are coming for his throat.
Okay.
And this is like said to be like one of the very first like depictions of agony in art. It's like a really important statue, and it's in the Vatican as we speak.
Oh, okay.
This beautiful statue was the inspiration for a work that Josef Hyrtl did, which is the second picture that I would like you to see.
Okay. So this appears to be a 3 skeletons in place of the 3 statues being attacked by snake skeletons.
That is exactly what you're seeing. Joseph,
I love it.
in his spare fucking time, made this recreation of this statue using real human skeletons and real snake skeletons.
Jesus Christ.
Right?
Is this on display in the Vatican?
It is not, unfortunately. It was actually destroyed by
the fuck?
By the Allies bombing in World War II.
Unfortunatamente.
But something very cool is that at the Houston Museum in Houston, they have actually got a recreation of this piece by a local artist.
Oh my god. It's so good.
Right? Theirs is done, I believe, in marble, but I saw this image, and this is what prompted me to look into this guy at all. Because I was like, look, I saw this image of these 3 skeletons fighting 2 snakes, and I was like, what the hell is going on here, you guys?
What's the context?
Yeah.
Who could make such a thing?
That led me to the Houston Museum, and then through researching that, I figured out that the original was by this guy. And then I started looking to him, and I was like, damn, he's really badass. Because he did not just like to recreate fucking classic statues. And we don't know why he did this, right? Like,
just for fun.
For
just
fun.
Art.
My suspicion maybe is that he was looking into this arm placement. There was I cut out a bunch of this stuff because, like, if we had all the time in the world, I'd tell you about the intricate debate about if, like, Leia Kuhn's arm should be out like a hero or back in, like, fear. And they ended up actually finding the missing arm, because the arm was missing when they first found it. They ended up finding it in, like, a building site in Rome, like, a little bit after.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and eventually they did attach it back to the statue.
Damn,
but that's
okay.
that was a whole other thing. I was like, what is this statue? Because then to learn that this bone thing was actually made, that it is a recreation of another statue that has its own archaeological history. That's really interesting. Oh gosh, so where are we even at? Yes, so not only did Josef Hyrtl like to create creepy, amazing art in his spare time, he had a vendetta and an axe to grind.
Okay.
There was a practice at the time that he hated. He thought it was racist, thought it was wrong, and he set out to disprove it.
Okay.
This would be phrenology.
Yes! Yes!
Boom! He hated phrenology and was like, fuck everyone who believes in this. I am going to collect over 139 skulls.
Oh my god.
And compare them and, like, look at all their differences and similarities and disprove phrenology. And do you know...
He did it?
That he did it. Of course he did it. He was
God.
yeah, this is a white skull, this is a black skull, they look fucking the same. But do you know where this collection of skulls is housed?
Oh, I bet it's the Mutter Museum.
Yes, it is, Caitlin. Ding,
yes.
ding, 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 ding,
yes.
It all comes back to the Mutter Museum. It all comes back to the Mutter Museum, girl. That's why I thought you got me with the Philadelphia College of Physicians, because they're the ones who run the Mutter Museum, which is also my secret source.
Amazing. Yeah, and I love when they come up on this podcast. It's been a while.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah, like, something that came up for me looking at this, I'm like, did these people give permission to be in an art piece? But it's also, like, the 1800s of it all. Like, they were
I don't think anyone had permission to do anything.
If he's the one, like, preparing bodies for dissection in a medical school.
Yeah.
When, like, it's just medical waste when they're done, so...
Yeah, they're not, you know, they don't need the skeletons after a certain time, and, you know, yeah, we're far enough along in history that dissection was, like, way more okay than it used to be.
Sure.
Vis-a-vis, you know, body snatchers, grave robbers, all that. So I would like to think that there was a little bit more agency in these bodies, but, you know, we don't have any idea about that.
It was so long ago. Like, who's to say? Everybody was just trying to live.
Yeah, and of course, like we just said, you can view Hyrtl's collection of skulls at the Mütter Museum in Philadelphia. It's an amazing collection. We've actually talked about it on this podcast before, which is why I thought Katelyn was I was on pins and needles wondering if she was gonna recognize this. But the wonderful thing about these skulls being in the Mütter Museum is that in a way they are continuing the spirit of Hyrtl's work with these skulls, because all the skulls have actually undergone CT scans and a series of x-rays that are actually used for a database that is accessible by medical researchers and has aided in research concerning concussions and sleep apnea. So, like,
Damn.
people are actively using the information from these skulls over 100 years later. You know,
That's
almost
really
200
cool.
years later, yeah.
And it disproved a racist practice of, like, let me feel your skull and, oh, you're bad. I feel a bump here that makes you bad.
Yeah, you're a criminal because of the shape of your skull. And we have arbitrarily, heavily quoted on arbitrarily, you know, they're like, white skulls be good, non-white skulls be bad. And it's scientifically inaccurate. It's racist as hell. It's just used to subjugate people. You know, it's some fucking nonsense and bullshit. And Hyrtl saw that and was like, I'm not going to let this fly.
Good.
And there are also using these skulls to practice techniques for extracting tooth roots from skulls to do like DNA tests without damaging the skulls.
Oh, cool.
So this has so many applications, both in archaeology and in our friend, true crime.
So cool.
Yeah, so he's fucking still helping.
Wow. Yeah. What a good one. So appropriate for this podcast.
Right. And like the guy really stayed cool till the end, because he, in the ending years of his life, he ended up founding an orphanage.
Oh, wow. Damn, this guy really was a good guy, it seems like.
Right? And he was really dedicated to preserving financial endowments to help students go to school for medicine.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. He passed away in 1894, but his legacy lives on in the Mütter Museum. It lives on in probably every medical textbook.
Yeah.
The guy helped us understand our bodies, and on the side made some kick-ass art.
Hell yeah. What a guy.
What a guy! Hyrtl, you're a one hell of a guy.
Yeah. Cheers to Hyrtl, and please enjoy an ad from Podmoth. We'll be right back.
Goodbye.
Riz.
Greetings.
Gendered language.
Onomatopoeias.
The ick.
What makes some words sound funny?
Why just listen to music when you can overanalyze the words in the songs?
Music, language, and Eurovision all crammed into one podcast.
Getting down and wordy with Russell and Hannah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Find us anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Shall we proceed?
I think we should proceed, counselor.
Oh man, that was great. I can't wait for our listeners to see that those three skeletons fighting those snake skeletons. That's so funny.
Right? When I saw it, I was like, I immediately must know what's
Yeah, I
going
must.
on. And for the podcast, like, even if it hadn't have been a whole thing, I was at least going to mention it.
Absolutely. Okay, so for my sources for today's topic, I looked at allthat'sinteresting.com, an article from ABC, and then an article from Oxygen.
Oh, oxygen always means it's good.
Juicy.
Yes, exactly.
So, this is the story of the would-be murderer, Dalia Dippolito. And I think it's Dalia. It's Dalia. So I'm going to say Dalia and hope that that's right. So we're going to go up to the current time pretty much. She was born in New York in October 1982 as Dalia Mohammed. She and her two siblings were raised in New York. Her father was Egyptian and her mother was Peruvian. The family relocated to Boynton Beach, Florida when she was about 13 years old, and she graduated from high school in about the year 2000. She wasn't really sure of what her next steps were, so she, I guess, tried to get a real estate license. And also, it says that she began moonlighting as an escort.
Okay.
Gotta make ends meet.
Yeah, no shame in the game.
So, through her work as an escort, which she denies doing ever, like working in that field, which, whatever. She met a man named Michael Dippolito in 2008. He was married at the time, but he fell in love with Dalia and, right away divorced his wife so that he could be with her.
Oh, no.
The two of them got married. It was very fast. The two of them got married on February 2nd in 2009, 5 days after Mike's divorce was finalized.
That is not the best look.
So Mike did have a little bit of a criminal history. I believe he was on probation at the time of the incident. The couple did a lot of stuff together, but they mostly like to go work out together or go dancing in South Florida's hottest clubs. So,
Ooh,
whoa.
a clubbing couple.
So they get married and a few months go by. And the police get this anonymous tip that Mike is working as a drug dealer, which he may or may not have been. It's kind of unclear, but they get this anonymous tip, so they have to investigate it. And I guess they're kind of closing in on him or they've questioned him, whatever. So he's feeling kind of the pressure. And so in July 2009, he agrees to transfer the title of his house to his wife to quote unquote protect his assets in case he gets arrested. But this was a part of a long con where Dalia was actually the one who had called in that tip because she was trying to get him arrested so she could be rid of him, I guess.
Oh, God.
And when that didn't work, she decided that she was going to get him killed by a hitman.
Why is that? I feel like I have seen a couple of true crime cases recently, but why so quick to hire a hitman?
It doesn't quite make, what is, I know that the clearest motive here is money.
Yeah.
But divorce is an option and you don't have to kill anybody.
Yeah.
So you get to keep your moral character.
And your freedom.
And exactly. You don't have to go to jail. So
And another person gets to live.
Yeah,
the
awesome.
rest of their life. Another person's loved one does not get
win-win
erased.
situation.
Yeah. I always decide against murder. When pushed, I decide against murder.
And you know what? That's one of the qualities I love best about you.
Aww.
So here's how she does it. She approaches a quote-unquote ex-boyfriend named Mohammed Shahada. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And she's like, hey,
Hey.
do you know any hitmen? And he's like, what the fuck?
I'd give a similar response.
He actually does the husband a huge solid here and immediately goes to the police.
Thank you. Someone with some fucking sense.
Exactly. So immediately they're like, all right, this seems a little bit strange, but just so happens, this is real. It just so happens that the TV show Cops was working with the police department this week.
Oh my
And
God.
they're just pure coincidence. So they agree to set up a hidden camera in the ex-boyfriend's car and they get him to schedule a meeting with Dalia. So they meet on July 30th, 2009 in a gas station parking lot. His car is all hooked up with microphones. He tells her he's found a hitman, he's found a guy, and that she has to go meet the guy 2 days later to coordinate the details of the hit.
Ugh.
And they have to figure out a price and all that stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the police are hearing, it's all on tape. They hear it all, see it all.
Wow. On Cops?
So then, I didn't search for the episode. I really want to watch this now. I might try and watch it before the episode releases, but yeah, I don't know if they were able to release it. It was evidence at trial, so it might have not been able to air right away. I'm not sure.
We'll see. We'll do a quick Google after this.
I'll try and
story.
find it if I can, and we'll do a viewing.
Yeah.
So they have a Boynton Beach Police Department officer. His name is Whitey Jean. Again, just like a quick reminder that this is Florida.
Of course it is.
Yep. So Officer Whitey Jean, or John, Jean, goes undercover as this hitman. And he meets with Dalia in another parking lot and she gets into his car. It's August 1st, 2009. And he asks her, like, point blank, "Are you sure you want to kill him?" And she says, quote, "There's no changing. I'm determined already. I'm positive. I'm like 5,000% sure." She gives... Yeah. This is 6 months into their marriage.
What?
And this obviously takes some planning. So she's been planning it for most of that time, if not all of it. I'm not sure.
Leave.
Exactly.
Your life isn't even that affected at that point. You can turn that shit around.
Exactly. You can,
just leave.
Yeah. So she gives the undercover cop $7,000 and sets up her alibi. So she's going to go to her gym on the morning of Wednesday, August 5th, so that she has an alibi when the murder takes place.
Nice. I'm so glad.
So August 5th rolls around.
Oh my God.
And they stage a crime scene.
Of course they do.
So she arrives home and they make her believe that this is a real crime scene of her dead, and her dead husband is inside.
Oh, I thought you were saying that she staged a crime scene.
No, the police did.
Oh my God, that's so different.
The husband's not like lying on the ground, like trying not to breathe or anything like that.
Oh my God, but what if?
No, just wait. He comes in at a better moment, actually.
Oh my God, Caitlin, please continue.
So they record everything. Her reaction when they tell her that her husband is dead. And like, it is just over. I mean, I'm sure it was just over the top, like nonsense. Just like, and they're just like, can you imagine being in that room and just being like watching this happen and being like, we fucking got you. Like, yeah, this is such a lie.
Like, she's sure 5,000%. They got you 5,000%.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
You are. This is red-handed. This is like, God, that's on cops too.
Yeah, I really need to see this after this research.
Right?
So they take her to the police station because they, obviously they need to interview her because she's the widow, right? And they need to try and figure out if she knows anything and if she has any ideas about who could have done this.
Anything. Yeah, I wonder if she does.
So she's in an interrogation room and her husband walks in, like, in the middle of the interview.
Holy shit.
And, like, the whole thing is laid out to her, like, hey, your ex-boyfriend, like, tipped us off. Your hitman is an undercover cop. Mike is alive.
Oh,
we
God.
have all of this on camera as well.
Surprise.
Yeah. So she's immediately arrested for solicitation to commit first-degree murder.
Wow.
And like I kind of touched on, the prosecutors in her trial argue that she wanted control of their townhouse, which she got before when he thought he might be arrested, and the bank account. She wanted money. There's also a possibility that she wanted out of the relationship so that she could rekindle things with that old boyfriend or another old boyfriend. Whatever.
Girl, just leave.
So Dalia has, throughout all of these years, has denied that she ever wanted her husband dead. At this trial, this is in 2011, her attorney tries to claim that she knew she was being recorded and that she and her husband came up with the idea of creating this like elaborate scheme to get on reality TV and become famous.
Ugh.
She basically claims that she knew the whole thing was fake and that they were just acting. This wasn't real.
No.
Her husband denies these claims, though. So,
girl, you got duped. You got fucking duped on cops.
Yeah,
like
100%.
I mean, if we have any younger listeners who are not familiar with Cops, it was a TV show that was like basically right along with Police. and film like what they do. It was a lot of car chases. It was a lot of drunk drivers. It was a lot of like people running around pantsless. Like, you know, it was.
It's a glimpse into the kind of the weirdest parts of society, I would say.
Yeah, and definitely not the most tastefully orchestrated thing. So to think that like cops was like, okay, let's catch a would-be murderer.
We'll catch her in the act. We've got all the equipment right here.
Exactly. Exactly. They were like, we have this woman in high def. Like,
yeah. As high def as it gets in 2009.
Exactly. Like, you know, I wonder if the TV editor put the fucking footage together for the trial. Like, it's wild. Like, Katelyn, this story is unhinged.
Yeah. So it's 2011. Like I said, she's found guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The judge called this whole plot, quote, pure evil, and sentenced her to 20 years in prison.
Good.
But
no.
An appeals court judge rules in 2014 that the jury was improperly selected in that first trial and tosses out the conviction, so they have to go back to trial. So she gets a new lawyer in this second trial, I believe. And at the second trial, her lawyer, Mr. Claypool, gets rid of the defense that she thought she was acting for the camera because she knew she was being filmed. And instead, he kind of pivots and says that the Boynton Beach Police Department, he accuses them of misconduct and like trying to get, you know, clout on cops, basically. Like that the fact that they were filming with cops like created this whole scenario, and now his client is in jail because of it.
Okay, interesting defense.
So her trial ends with a hung jury, surprisingly. Like, I want to watch this footage and see how believable I think it is. But, I mean, it's very believable.
Yeah, I would think it's very hard to refute, but...
They gonna try.
Yeah.
So, again, we're headed to trial again in 2017. This time, in 90 minutes, a jury returns a guilty verdict.
Hell yeah.
And again, she is sentenced to 16 years in prison this time.
Okay.
They're still trying to get her out of jail, though. So in September 2019, the Florida Supreme Court rejected the request for them to review her conviction in the 2017 trial. They also tried to put the case before the U.S. Supreme Court, like the big one, but they also declined to hear that. So her lawyer is still trying to get her a new trial, but seems a little bit bleak. She has turned to religion in jail, like a lot of would-be murderers do. She's, quote, according to her lawyer, very well respected in jail for her faith. This is an interesting little layer in here. When she was... After the first trial was overturned, like her conviction was overturned, she was on like house arrest for a little while before the second trial started. She actually got pregnant at that time and then gave birth to a son who, at the time of this article, one of my sources was 4 years old and his grandma was taking care of him. And quote, "It's very painful for Dalia to be in jail and not to be around her son. It's breaking her heart. Dalia truly misses the fact that she cannot be around her son more." They're trying to make us feel bad for her, but it's like, you tried to kill someone who you were married to for 6 months.
For $7,000.
For $7,000 so you could have a house and money.
Yeah. I do not feel bad for her, but
no,
I do feel bad for
that
child.
kid.
Yes.
I do too. Yeah.
Like, they don't get to have, you know, a mom for however long she's in jail, and their mom also wanted to have someone killed. I think that's rough, but hopefully, you know, they're taken great care of by the grandmother.
So interestingly, this case had no bones at all. So a little different for our podcast, but I was struck by it. The way that this just happened to coincide with the week or month or whatever that the Boynton Beach Police Department was filming with cops they come up with this, like, they just are able to film this woman, like, trying to get a hitman to kill her husband. Like, it just...
It's wild.
It's also, it's the Florida of it all.
The Florida of it all, it's corny, but, like, you can't write that shit.
I'll report back if I'm able to find the video.
Wow. What a wonderful return to Bones. You know, I love Bones, but in a true crime case, it's always best if the person survives. I was going to say if there's no bones, but if the person did not survive and there's no bones, that's a difficult one.
That's tricky, but no, this, I thought it's wild. She's depraved, but he lived. And as far as I know, is still alive today. So, yeah, they got their divorce after all.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it would just be, and that's not his child, right?
No, not that we know of.
Okay, because that would be really difficult to be linked to that kind of person forever.
Well, it happened in between her first and second trial for this.
So that, well, some people have a hard time getting away from their exes.
That is true. I hope that didn't happen, because, like, I also question, like, if the person who impregnated her knew that she tried to kill her last partner.
Yeah, that's
weird to me.
A difficult turn.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Bones. Bones all summer, baby.
Yeah, wow. A reality TV Bones.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you have a good rest of your day, rest of your week. Appreciate your bones. And if you appreciate our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on your directory of choice. We really appreciate it. And as always, Bone Voyage.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter.
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
At Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
You ready?
I'm ready, baby.
Okay.
Oh, the doggies.